a fool with a tool is still a fool.
For every euro that you spend on AI, I think you should spend 6 on the data infrastructure.
If you don't feed them with enough validated information, I think it becomes harder.
Deployed 60,000 agents across their 40,000 employees. How many agents are you planning to deploy this year?
Context is key, as always.
One thing every data team should do before deploying a single agent?
Think.
So Daan, we're here today. I'm really excited to have you on the podcast. We know each other for quite some time already. We have been doing Oracle stuff in the past, but now we're in conference season. The biggest companies that we work with have their conferences this month. So super exciting to discuss that with you. You went to a lot of those conferences. So what is the thing that excites you the most this time?
Yeah, so each year for me it's challenging what's coming up, and it's in the previous years it was all about simplicity and ease of use, and I'm always wondering if they can keep that same idea from the past in today's developments, because there's happening a lot. It's very difficult to keep up. So I'm very interested that it is not only about AI, but that they also think about how can we implement it and how can we make it as easy as it has been over all those years.
Okay, so we're very well familiar, but for the people watching who don't know you yet, can you tell us a bit more about Daan Bakboord, who you are, and what you have been doing up until now?
Yeah, so I started in data, I think in early 2000s. I was working for a dressing company, and they were in the early stages of predictive maintenance, and I was really surprised what they were doing with data. So for me, that was really interesting. So yeah, I went along with it, worked with a lot with Oracle software in those days. So that's where I think where we met. And then at the end of, I think it was 2017, 2018, I heard something which was called Snowflake. And for me, Snowflake was about data modeling and not necessarily a data platform. And I went to have a look at it. And for me, from that moment on, it was, okay, I can do 2 things. Either stay on Oracle for the rest of my life or do something different. And I made the switch to Snowflake. In my Oracle days, I was really active in the Oracle community. So I knew a lot of people here in the Netherlands, but also outside. And I did a similar thing in Snowflake because, for me, it's a way to exchange ideas, meet new people, think about things that are happening in the field, and just have a chat about all things data. And in this case, specifically in Snowflake, because of my involvement in the community, I was awarded the Snowflake Superhero. Achievement, and that's more a recognition of the things we are doing in the field, and I'm also trying to host the local Snowflake User Group.
Cool, very very exciting. You also as a data superhero, you went to the Snowflake Summit 5 times already. What changed this year that it made it optional this year for you?
Yeah, so the first time I went was in 2019. Was in San Francisco, and back at the days it was just in I think it was in the Hilton Hotel. I think it was relatively small, and then came COVID, so it was 2 years online, and then they had 2 years in Vegas, and the last 3 years, which I went 2 years of, was in San Francisco in the Moscone. And it was really big. Yeah, and this year I had to see what I would do. So I'm an independent consultant. So if I go there, I have to make choices. And I'm also a partner within Bravinci, and we have a lot of things coming these days. So I made the choice to stay at home, also stay with the family, and that's also a nice thing.
Nice. Okay, so let's rewind back to that 2019. Back then it was kind of warehouse only. Yeah. What was so different about it back then that made you work with Snowflake?
So the interesting part back then was that the founders of Snowflake, they came from Oracle, and they had a vision that there was something missing in the Oracle data platform. And I find it really interesting that people, if they miss something, and they cannot achieve it within the organization where they are, that they step out and they just go work on something. So these guys, they pick the whiteboard and they said, okay, when we start something new, then it should be easy, it should be simple, it should be all based on SQL, and that's what we are going to build. And they did it, and that's really interesting. And for me, the first time I worked with Snowflake, so I spun up a trial account, and I just created a database, and I went from there. And as easy as that, I never had achieved that before.
Yeah, nice. So these days, everything is about context, about agentic. Why did it change, in your opinion? Like, did the product got caught up, or did the market demand something like this?
Yeah, it's probably a combination. So I think what all these big tool vendors do, they talk with organizations, and they know what the field is asking for, and they just create it, they invest a lot of money to create things, but still the old beliefs about ease of use and simplicity, they still stand.
Yeah, some people were kind of expecting this with the new CEO, Sridhar. I will not pronounce his name fully, but with the new CEO, they expected him to double down on AI, on new capabilities. Do you think Snowflake delivered on that now?
Yeah, I think they did. Yeah, but still, it's so everybody is talking AI, and I know one of the keynotes when Frank Slootman was still the CEO. He said, if I was paid for the amount of times I say AI, but I think they did deliver on it, because a lot of things within Snowflake, they are based on AI, also in the background. So the way they develop and improve Snowflake is also based on AI. Mm-hmm. But also for a user or a developer, it's also very easy to use AI.
When did you hear them first speak about semantics and context?
I think it was last year for the first time that I really heard them talk about it.
Yeah, with the Open Semantic Interchange, with that launch.
No, I think it was before with the Semantic Fuse. So that was more the YAML file based stuff. I think that was the first time. But the developments it's going so fast.
Yeah, interesting. In my view, like all these announcements made at the conference are heavily related to semantics, to context. So it's becoming quite important now, right?
Yeah, I think it's even more important, because we can discuss about what is a customer, or we can discuss about what is revenue, and then we can say to each other. So if it's a customer, then we say the customer is someone we sell something to. But for instance, for the marketing department, a customer can be anyone, even before we send them an invoice, or before we sell them something. And if you don't give the context, if you just leave it open, and you let an agent decide, is it this or that? Yeah, you have a real challenge.
Interesting. I think Snowflake has multiple offerings or products on that. They announced the Horizon Context, and they have the Cortex Sense, but there's also the open source initiative. So that's the Open Semantic Interchange, but that is like the open standard for everyone. Mm-hmm. Semantic Fuse. Why do you think that there's a split in this offering? Why do you think there are multiple products for agents, for humans to maintain?
It's hard to say, because sometimes they start with something. So, for instance, the Semantic Fuse that was before, but the developments are going so fast that there comes something new. It's also you also have the choice. So what do you want to use? And I think they have to, because a lot of people they want freedom of choice. So for some organizations, it might be sufficient to use option A. And for another organization, it's better to use option B, or maybe a combination.
So Snowflake's pitch now is that the semantics live inside of the governance engine, and that they will execute it on query time. Do you think that holds in practice? I think you have a lot of implementation experience. Do you think that holds in practice, or do you think that it's just the theater for the keynote?
No, I think it holds, but everything, let's say a fool with a tool is still a fool. It's the way people implement things. So the good thing about Snowflake is the huge amount of possibilities, but still you have to think very carefully how you implement things, because otherwise it can be messy very fast. So you have to think things through, and if you have a real good plan, then most of the time implementation is relatively simple.
Okay, like one of the things that Sridhar said during the keynote is that every person, tool, and agent will run on the same layer. We would call it like the integration layer, I guess. Mm-hmm. What really changed about Semantic Fuse in that regard?
How do you mean?
Is there actually something new, or is it just the semantic layer that you would always need? Is it different from the integration layer that we have been building for years already?
I think it's a little bit different because it gives more context. So the integration layer, like we did in the past, it was just in the database, and it was, you have the tables and joins, and that combination, it is what it is. But what you want right now is the real context. So what do these things mean? So,
but it still translates down to the joins that we have been doing for years in database.
Exactly. I think it gives more context, and it used to be a lot of times you build the semantic layer in a tool. So you did it in Power BI, for instance, and you did it again in
I would say Looker or Omni.
Yeah, Looker, Omni, back in the days, Oracle Discoverer, it was all, you built it inside, but you did it again and again and again. What you do right now, you bring it back to the database. So all things, and I think that's a good thing about a Snowflake. So you leave the data where it is, and you bring all the intelligence to the data instead of bringing all the data to the separate tools.
Should it be in the warehouse, or are we creating a new lock-in there for ourselves?
No, not necessarily. So if you build everything you build, you have to think about a certain exit strategy. So if you want out, that you can go out. And with the open standards these days, it's relatively easy. So I think you have to think about that. And then, of course, with every tool, when they say there is no lock-in, of course there is always amount of lock-in. And I don't think that's a problem, because that way you can make optimal use of what the tool provides you. But you always have to think about, okay, but there might come a moment that we have to move out. And is it possible?
This is very interesting, because you're just mentioning like it's becoming more a thing of the warehouse that you do in the warehouse. And this is exactly one of the things I have been doing. I personally have been doing different for the past couple of years. I used to be a big fan of Looker and LookML. And Looker lives outside of the warehouse in that regard. You're building your modeling layer in LookML, specific language, and a lot of companies kind of felt locked in. They couldn't move out of LookML. All their business logic used to be in LookML. And now the promise is kind of that we are opening up the standards with the Open Semantic Interchange, and that you can move out, that you can bring your logic somewhere else. A lot of companies in the meantime have been moving from LookML to DBT, for example, but then they still had some logic in LookML, which they didn't transfer fully to Open SQL. But now, DBT merged with Fivetran, so it's a big vendor. If you're on DBT, you're also locked in. It's Open SQL, but you're paying DBT to manage and maintain it. Is there really an open standard? Do you believe there really will be an open spec which makes it fully portable and interchangeable, or is this just for show?
I don't think it's just for show, but I think, let's say, all those technology vendors, they have to offer something
that makes them stick.
Yeah, and that makes them special from somebody else. And that is not necessarily that the one is better than the other, but they have to think about it. And sometimes, there always is a small amount of vendor lock-in, so to say. And I don't think it's really bad. But like I said, you can do a lot in a database. You can do a lot with SQL. You can do a lot with the open standards. Yeah, try to think about it and use it as much as possible. And yeah, then you still might have maybe 10% that you are locked in. Yeah, so be it.
I think there's something interesting going on in there. I was following the announcements. I'm following this guy called Josh Klaar. He is kind of the initiator behind the whole Open Semantic Interchange. Mm-hmm. And with the new recent announcement, they also said that they're integrating AtScale, the vendor, into the Snowflake Semantic Fuse. They have this privileged position of being inside of the Snowflake product, which is amazing, I think. But there are more vendors doing similar things. For example, you have Honeydew. You get some greetings from Liron.
Okay, we had them on in the Snowflake the user group a few years ago. Yeah,
Liron sends our regards. But what is interesting is that AtScale and both AtScale and Honeydew are backed by Snowflake Ventures. And that gives them like a privileged position within Snowflake. But you also have vendors with competing semantic layers like Motley, which is kind of a smaller player in that space. Do you need to be in the Snowflake product? Do you need to be integrated into the Snowflake offering to be taken seriously? Or do you think that this should be open, fully open, in a sense that it's interchangeable between all those vendors that want to compete on the semantic layer?
Ooh. Yeah, in the end, you want to have the possibility to choose. So freedom of choice, that would be great. But on the other hand, the good thing for technology providers as AtScale and Honeydew, if they are close to Snowflake, they are also close to the developments. So if something changes in Snowflake, they are one of the first to know about it, and they can improve their solutions. Yeah, so it's a little bit of both. So you want, at one end, you want them to be able also to provide you with something else. If it's necessary to move out for some reason, then it should be able to move out. Or if you still have something that is different from Snowflake and you want to combine these, then it would be great if you can do it with the same tool, and that you not have to bring in another tool or another technology. Yeah, so it's a bit of both. So it's a good thing that they invest in a few technology providers and make sure that what they are offering is really close to what they are offering, and that it works, because that's the whole idea about the ease of use. So if you have something, so a lot of times if you have to combine multiple tools, it's always difficult to integrate them. So if that's easy, that's a plus. But like I said, and I think I'm going to repeat it a few times, is you have to have an exit strategy for whatever happens at some point. You have to be able to move out if necessary.
Is this something that looks familiar to you? Like, I think we've seen market consolidation, big vendors buying BI tools, big vendors taking over the smaller players in order to win market share, in order to have a tightly integrated offering. But also a big part of consulting work in that regard is helping customers to understand which vendors and which tools combine best and are the most beneficial to them. Is it something we've seen before, and is it something that we can really help our customers with, or is it more of a downside for the customer?
Yeah, I think in the end it should be beneficial for the customer, but we as consultants, I think we have to be really honest and open about the pros and the cons of a certain solution or a combination of solutions. And I think that's the biggest, let's say, problem challenge I have with consultancy in general. So we make it as if we are really special and that it's all really complicated. But I think we should really help customers making the right choices. And if they have made a choice, help them get the most out of the choice. I think that's the thing we should focus on. And if they choose, so if you ask me, everybody has to choose Snowflake. But there are some reasons why when it's impossible for them to choose. So if you have let's say if you have a no cloud strategy, okay, then it's no Snowflake. It can be if for some reason if you don't want to be in the cloud, then you have to do something differently. But the whole discussion about whether Databricks or Snowflake or whatever, whether it's better, for me, it's useless. If you choose for Databricks, then that's fine. But just stay there and make the most of it. And it doesn't make sense to say, but they are doing it like this and they are doing it like that, or it doesn't matter. You made a choice, stick to it, and be happy.
Okay, and in that regard, if you look at Horizon Context, that is committed to the OSI, but it's still a Snowflake native product, would you then recommend the customer to buy into this ecosystem and complete things in Snowflake? Or is portability more important in that regard? Is that more in the interest of the customer, portability?
It depends. So you have to have the discussion with the customer what he wants, what is important for them. And I think if people are choosing for Snowflake, I think I would recommend them without any context. I would say just use the tools that are provided. But if you have strong needs for being able to move out or open standards or whatever, then I would advise something differently.
Okay, we're mainly working in the EU, specifically in the Benelux region. Does it make sense for enterprises in the Benelux to really bet on semantic layer with a vendor? Or do you think there's more value in more open standards, more local, more EU-based solutions maybe? Sovereignty is maybe the right word.
Yeah, but sovereignty is also a discussion about what do you want? Where do you want your data to live? And is it really important for you? So if there is no importance where the data lives, then just go, for instance, for Snowflake, because it's easy to use, it's no problem. But if your data needs to be in whatever country in the EU, then you have to think about it. Okay, what are the possibilities? Do I want to be in country A or B or C? And with the current geopolitical situation, you might think, okay, all the data should live in the EU. But also in the EU, we have regulations. And what the US is doing, we are doing the similar things in the EU. And maybe even worse. Because in the Netherlands, we have something called a sleepwet. Is it better or worse than what they are doing in the US? So you really have to think about it. And if you go back to sovereignty, then it's also not necessarily that you have to go to open source, because open source also has its challenges. So it's no problem to buy a US-based tool, for instance, for a BI or a database or whatever. But you have to think about, if my data lives in a certain country, is that legislation there? Is that the legislation I want to live in? And that's more the discussion you have to have with your organization, with your clients, your customers. So what do you want? And these are a few things. And then if you know that, then you can say, okay, Snowflake is a good one, or we need open source, or we need a best of breed combination, or we need proprietary software, whatever. There's a whole discussion before, and then go implement.
I asked this question specifically because I know that next to your work with Snowflake, you have this proprietary, or you have this solution for your specific EU-based customers that you're offering for specific customers. Yeah. Can you tell us a bit more about that solution, maybe?
Yeah, so what we heard from our customers, that they needed a local solution they could control, and that they know, okay, my data is here, and I also can move out if necessary. So with my company, Bravinci, we built something called Dividos, and it's a best of breed combination of different tools. So we picked Yellowfin as the front end. We picked AtScale for the database. We currently choose a Stackable for the data integration. We have Keycloak for the whole authorization part. And we work together with several local data centers. So not only in Europe, but also in the Caribbean. And it's just to give organization freedom of choice. And they can start small and they can scale as they want. So it depends also on the technology providers if they can come along with what we want, because we can start with really small customers and grow them. And we can also install them on the same hardware and support multiple customers. But the most important thing is that we want to give them more freedom of choice.
Cool. Thanks for sharing. Back to the summit, maybe. One of the assumptions, one of the things that I operate on is that for every euro that you spend on AI, I think you should spend 6 on the data infrastructure, on the data layer. Do you think after the announcements of this summit that ratio goes up or down? Specifically because we know that Snowflake's earnings went up because of agentic spend, probably. What are your thoughts on that?
So I need a little bit more the background about why you come with that ratio. But I can imagine why the spend of AI for Snowflake went up that high. Because I think a lot of customers just start playing with it and don't have a look at, it's going out of control. And the good thing what Snowflake does, so you can have budgets, you can have controls, you can really see what you are spending on certain tools, for instance, AI. And I think that FinOps becomes more and more important. And I saw someone posting on LinkedIn, so what he was missing in all these announcements is the carbon footprint. So what are you spending? What is the effect on things? And I think that would be really interesting to also include, that you can really see what's happening. Because now it's, for a lot of people, if you don't think about it, it's just a black box. You say, hey, help me out. And but what's happening in the background?
I think the spend went up because a lot of companies just connected agents to Snowflake, and the agents without context need to read everything. They need to query everything. Yeah. So of course, spend goes up. Now Snowflake itself, they released their Cocoa desktop, I believe it's called.
Yep.
You also get the agentic capability to query your warehouse there.
Yep.
But you can already use it without having a full context layer. Potentially spend goes up there. I think the spend will only be manageable if you provide this context, if you work on this context, knowing where to find specific metrics instead of scanning all the tables, knowing how they're constructed, how they're joined. I think that's really important. And I think that's also why I say that there's this ratio of that you would spend 6 times more on the data infrastructure in order to get clean data that the agent can understand, interpret. I think that is really important. Interesting to see if the spend goes up. I think, do you think if a CDO, for example, says, hey, on Monday we want to make agents run on our data, do you think companies are ready for that?
No. I don't think so. Because it's the same with when ChatGPT came out, people just asking questions and you get something back. And then that was, because Chat said, so a lot of people say, but Chat said it. Yeah, of course. But Chat, there is no context. And that's really important to have the context. So to know where to look for it and to know how the tables are related. And maybe maybe it's the near future or in the far future, it's not necessary anymore. But for now, I don't believe it. And also what I said earlier, still, if you see a customer or if you see revenue, is the revenue I'm talking about, is that the same revenue you are talking about? Because also people, I had a conversation yesterday about, are BI tools still, is there a place for BI tools? And my opinion is, for now, because if we have an agent, if I build an agent and you build an agent, are we getting the same results? Are we asking the same questions? So if we come back and we have the revenue in Amsterdam, and I do the same, and you have 100 and I have 110, who's right? If there is no, and if we don't know whether we asking the same questions.
That is very interesting. Do you think that validation will then take place with the BI tool, in the BI layer, with visualizations, with tables that we produce there, or is it potentially in the context layer already that we figure that out?
Yeah, but still, even if we bring the context to it, then still it's very important that we ask the same questions. Let's say that you ask the revenue including taxes, and I ask it without taxes.
Okay, but then the question becomes, what would the BI layer look like, right? Not that it's completely gone, but it will look different. Potentially, it's more conversational, or
yeah, maybe, but also that then it's validated. So if you look at a picture, you know upfront what are we talking about, and if you do it with an agent without any context, yeah, then you're not 100% sure what you are talking about, and then you can have different figures. And with this dashboard, then you at least know, okay, we are talking about the revenue, and it's including taxes. Then it's all clear for everybody. And for now, so if people just asking those questions without any context, I'm a little bit worried. Okay, that's the same thing as we had with chat in the beginning, that we just ask questions and we get an answer and we say, okay, that's it.
To actually know if what is being asked, if that is the right thing, the validation point.
Yeah.
Interesting. I think what we've seen up until now is that the speed of development, I think, on the BI end isn't optimal. A lot of times it's kind of a bottleneck. There are business questions, and the data team needs to kind of answer them and provide insights. I kind of tend to agree with you on that. It's still relevant, but at the same time, I also know that people potentially want access to data faster than what we can potentially deliver as a data team.
Yeah, could be, but even then, if they want to have the data faster and go to the data via agents or whatever, then it's even more important to make sure that this data has the right context, that you really know what you are talking about, and of course, then you can ask your own questions, and then I think context is key, as always. It's also if we are talking to each other and you ask me a question, and I don't know really what you mean, then I might give a complete different answer.
But the agent can also clarify, right? Ask the next question and then get to a point of understanding.
Yeah, but are people are they waiting for the next question? Are they looking at the next question, or is it the first answer? Is that the answer, and they go?
Interesting. What announcement from this year's summit do you think is still relevant in a year's time, looking forward, like the Coco desktop, Horizon context? What will we talk about in 1 year's time?
I think all of it, because it's what I see. It's an evolution. So, and sometimes things are presented last year and they are still there here this year. There was some rebranding, renaming, and some things are developed further. Because what we see a lot of times is that something is presented in Summit 2025, and then it comes really GA at this summit, maybe in a different name. So there is a lot of development between something is announced and it's really GA. And from what I understood earlier, lots of times it has to do with security. It has to do with the integration. Everything is governed. So when if you select a table or you use an agent, you use the same credentials and the same authorization. And most of the time, that is the biggest challenge. So from what I've seen, so I didn't read it all. I think it's all relevant in some form.
Interesting to see how you follow this and how you are experienced following those announcements throughout the years. A really interesting take, because I didn't look at it that way. You're really following the roadmap, the general availability and stuff, and interesting that you trust the process in that regard.
Now, so with Snowflake they have a few stages. So the first is in development, then it's in private preview, which means that some selected customers get a chance to play around with it and give a lot of feedback, and it's improved. And then at a certain point, it's in public preview, and they collect more information, more feedback, but it's still not really production ready, so you can use it, but it's not really production ready. And then it goes GA, so then it's generally available. So there are a few stages before something goes live, and it's not very often that I use something and I get an error or something. And so it's a thorough development process, from real development to trying things out with a broader audience until GA. And sometimes it's frustrating because some things, and I know from last year that I was in San Francisco, some things were announced in 2024 and then they will still not released or at the point of release in 2025. So it's like, you are in a candy store as a little kid. So you see something, but you cannot get it yet. So that is, on one hand, it's frustrating, but at the point it's GA, then it most of the time it works.
Okay, thanks. Nice data superhero insights here. I have some rapid fire questions for you. It's just a pick, no explanation needed. We can discuss afterwards, but it's interesting to see what you pick. So for you, Coco or co-work?
Coco.
The most underinvested layer in 2026, the foundation, the semantics, the orchestration, or AI?
Ooh. Come again, the first one was the...
Foundation, semantics, orchestration, or AI?
It's probably the foundation.
One tool that you would rip out every Snowflake environment tomorrow?
I think for me now, OpenFlow.
The most overhyped Snowflake Summit announcement?
Overhyped. That's a good one. Yeah, it's probably Coco Desktop.
The most underrated Snowflake announcement?
Ooh. That's a good one. I couldn't tell. That's too much to choose from.
Semantic layer in the warehouse or standalone?
In the warehouse, but we come to that later. Yeah.
Do you think Databricks will announce a counter offer to Horizon Context?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
One thing every data team should do before deploying a single agent?
Think.
Okay, you had this remark that you wanted to make about the semantic layer in the warehouse or standalone. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think it's a good thing if it's as close to the data as possible. But the idea is that you can also use it outside. There's a similar thing. So that is not only for use inside the data warehouse, but that you also can use it with other toolings or technologies. So it's more. So it's better when it's close to the data, but you also want to use it as much as possible. So that's the remark that I have.
Can you think of anything we haven't discussed yet? Something you've seen during the summit? Something we need to discuss?
Now, my answer. So what should data teams do before they start developing agents? And that's more about think, and because I think the tools are so easy to use right now, so everybody is using it, and you really have to think about what am I doing? What do I want to achieve? What do I need for that? And if you have that all clear, and it's good and it's okay, then start building. Instead of the other way around, just throw it at users for them to use, and then nobody knows what happens and especially if you leave the human out of it. So just let the agent do its job. If you don't feed them with enough validated information, I think it becomes harder. And it's the same with people. If you don't instruct someone to do something, so if I say to you, just paint the house, then you paint it in the color you want. I have to give you clear instructions. So I want the walls, I want them white, I want the doors to be snowflake blue or whatever. I have to tell you. And if I don't tell you, you just do something. And then in the end, and this is just with a house, this is not a real problem because then we paint it again. But if you let the agent do his job, and it takes its own actions, or you build your own information on top of that. I think that's really a big problem.
The company Process, one of the biggest companies here, they released a report that they already deployed 60,000 agents across their 40,000 employees. How many agents are you planning to deploy this year still?
I really have no plans for that now. No. I think so for me, also the current assignment I'm in, we have enough challenges to get the data in order and to make sure that the data is of a good quality. And I think that for all people, that should be their first concern, that the data is there, that you can trust it, that it's that you have modeled it in the right way, and that you can say for sure that if an agent takes a run with this data, then that it can be trusted. For now, I think we have a lot of challenges with most of our customers to make sure that the foundation is there. Like you said, I think, and I have to agree, and whether it's 1, 6 or even higher number, it's not 6, but maybe 10, I agree with you.
I think this is a good question to end on then in that regard. If you manage to do this right as a company, if you manage to build out this foundation, what will success look like in the next 3 to 5 years if you do this right?
Yeah, if you do it right, I hope that companies have more time to do other things that are relevant for their organization, especially the easy things, the things that are repetitive. It's a pity that you have to do it manually. So if you can do it with an agent, then it's fine, and it would mean that you have time left to do different things. And I hope that organizations come to that. So if they have the foundation is there, agents are doing their thing, get there first time for doing other things, maybe innovation, maybe spend more time with the customers, listening to their customers. I think that would be the biggest win, hopefully.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing that, and I really enjoyed speaking with you. Yeah, thanks for coming over and for sharing all these insightful things.
Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk data with you, and see you next time.